For more than a century, we have been burning fossil fuels to generate most of our energy required to propel our cars, run our businesses, and keep the lights on in our homes. Even today, oil, coal, and gas provide for about 80% of our energy needs. Unfortunately, we're paying the price when it comes to this, because using fossil fuels for energy has extracted an enormous toll on humanity and our ecosystems. We must educate one another on the alarming effects from fossil fuels, and because it is time to move forward toward a clean energy future for the sake of our planet and those roaming it. Today I'll be talking to you about the problems, causes, and solutions of fossil fuels. First, let's talk about the problems. Now, the problems concerning this issue can be seen making detrimental effects to our environment. First off, land degradation occurs as these fossil fuels require unearthing, processing, and moving underground oil and gas and coal deposits, which takes an enormous toll on our landscapes and ecosystem, according to the Energy Weekly Atlas June 14th, 2019 edition. And it also reported in the Energy and Ecology October 11th, 2019 edition, it states that these fossil fuel industries lease vast stretches of land for infrastructure, and as a result, the entire swaths of terrain, including forests and even mountaintops, are scraped and blasted away to expose underground coal or oil. Now, this means that critical wildlife that use these environments for migration and breeding ends up fragmented and destroyed, and even animals that are able to escape end up suffering because they end up in less than ideal environments and must compete with existing wildlife and others for resources. And another major aspect we can see fossil fuels negatively affecting can be seen through the water pollution occurring in our environment. As stated in the Energy Weekly News April 10th, 2020 edition, coal, oil, and gas development pose major threats to our waterways because coal mining operations wash acid runoff into streams, rivers, and lakes, and they dump vast quantities of unwanted rock and soil into streams as well. According to the Energy Weekly News March 6, 2020 edition, it also states that oil spills and leaks during these extractions or transportations can pollute drinking water sources and jeopardize entire freshwater or ocean ecosystems, and that is extremely alarming. However, we are still continuing to use this source of energy. Now, lastly, the most prominent effect that we can see fossil fuels affecting is through our ecosystem and the pollution that stems from the emissions from these fossil fuels. In the Environment and Conservation September 27, 2019 edition, it states that fossil fuels emit harmful pollutants long before they're even burned. Around 12.6 million Americans are exposed daily to toxic air pollution from active oil and gas wells, and other processing facilities. And when we burn off oil, coal, and gas, we don't just end there. We drive the current global warming crisis as well, because these emissions trap heat in the atmosphere, which lead to overall climate change, as stated in the Energy and Ecology August 23rd, 2019 edition. Now that I've talked to you about the problems, let's talk about the causes. Now, the reason why we continue to use these fossil fuels in the first place is due to very selfish reasons. In the Energy Weekly News August 24th, 2019 edition, it states that these fossil fuels are efficient, and that is why we oftentimes lean towards them. What I mean by that is that these fossil fuels have been formed for over millions of years as the organic material of ancient plants and microorganisms were compressed and heated. These basically make for condensed energy, and that is why they are so great at their job. Also, other people claim that these sources are, in other words, so convenient to use. These fossil fuels can be used anywhere where the appropriate infrastructure exists, and that means we can access their energy during any time as well. Now, a lot of people also claim that these fossil fuels are so established into our world that is why we can't go or stray away from them. For the past 2 centuries, basically going back to the Industrial Revolution, we've been leaning on fossil fuels for our source of energy, and that is why many people are reluctant in trying new ways to find renewable energy sources. Now that I've talked to you about the causes, let's talk about the solutions. Now, the solutions to diminish this issue can be alleviated if we were to take the time to do the correct research in order to effectively switch to alternative energy and really invest in these products. For instance, by simply switching to green power, we would see a huge decrease in the use of fossil fuels. The easiest way to switch to green power or green energy is to call your provider and see if they offer an alternative. And the good news is increasing number of companies do, and they're offering it at a cheaper price, and they will be able to give you renewable resources like wind and solar power to offer electric services in their market. This means by leaning towards solar energy and using sunlight as our renewable source. And for bigger corporations and businesses, we can use single wind turbines in order to generate electricity to supplement an existing electrical supply. That is most ideal for bigger infrastructures. And doing our part, we can even invest in an eco-friendly motor vehicle, which would seemingly help to decrease the number of fossil fuels to help our planet, our ecosystem, and our wildlife. Now that I've talked to you, or clearly there are viable solutions to this issue. Today I've talked to you about the problems, causes, and solutions of fossil fuels. If we can put the right policies in place, we are poised to make a dramatic progress toward a clean energy future. We can slash U.S. fossil fuel by 80% by 2050. But in order to do that, we will need to cut energy demand in half, grow renewable energy resources so that they provide at least 80% of our power, and electrify almost all forms of transportation, and get fossil fuels out of our buildings. That will require sustained, coordinated policy efforts from all levels of government, and from that, we know that we can do it using the proven, demonstrated clean energy technologies that we have today.